podcasts.
Welcome to show 66 of Grey Hat Beard Princess, the podcast all about Microsoft modern work. Now, question, is it modern though, or is it just work? So, my name's Al Erdley. I'm a technical architect at the Microsoft Technology Centre in London.
And we're just realizing this is the first time we've done the intro without you doing the intro, and it's all gone confused now. So I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard Princess. My name's Kevin McDonnell. I'm the head of practice for modern workplace at CPS, Microsoft 365 apps and services MVP, and a Viva Explorer as well.
And at one point, you said I had too many things to talk about after me. And now
I got halfway through that and thought, yeah, I'll just add that extra one on as well.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Gary Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft and a member of the Microsoft 365 community platform team, formerly PMP.
Oh, I didn't know that had been renamed.
Formerly PMP.
Well, it's still PMP, right? But it's a branding exercise. But yeah.
We all know Microsoft. We all know Microsoft hates branding exercises.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I am also the Beard of Grey Hat Beard Princess.
And we don't have a princess today. She is busy doing other things, so it is just the three of us. And we are going to be just doing news today, and then I think we have a special episode next week, maybe a little later than normal. We will see. That's still being planned. So today,
and Nathan Sweeney, if you're listening, preferably not in the men's toilets. We don't want to record in there.
Now you're just setting expectations quite low, I have to say. But excellent.
Needless to say, if it is, then we're not going to be on video.
Very good point.
Yeah.
So we didn't do an episode last week, so we have quite a lot of news to go through. And I think starting off, we obviously had some announcements from Satya, and so the new key phrase, and I've already used this in sessions with clients, is hybrid work. Is it just work? Are we doing it wrong? And this is all about the Work Trend Index and the latest report from the Work Trend Index. And there's some key findings. They've done a lot of analysis of basically the way people are looking at work, both from an employer and a leadership side, but also from an employee and a job hunting side. And so they've taken a lot of information from LinkedIn for this. And they've come up with this term, productivity paranoia. And basically, they're using this term to describe the disparity between the way leadership assess productivity and the way employees assess productivity and how they think they're each doing. So employees think that we're really productive. We're working.
Are you saying leaders don't necessarily understand the same things employees? Fascinating.
They don't understand the same things. They may not see them the same way. I think it's a perception thing, isn't it? We've all been there when we were consultants, those clients who measure bums on seats, and then those other ones who kind of, they just want that outcome at the end. Don't matter how you get there, whether it's working nights, whether it's working days, whether you're in the office or not. And I think this kind of goes back to that kind of perception of, do we have to see people in the office to make sure that they are productive, or do we have trust in the mechanisms that we are using to manage them to make sure that we know that they're actually being productive wherever they may be working? And so the key stat that's come out of this is that 85% of leaders say that they have it's challenging to have confidence that their employees are actually being productive, which is really quite a scarily high number. If you think about it, the number of employees that come under that, employees is pretty much directly opposite, that 87% of them think that they are actually being productive. So it's very interesting that the numbers are both so high on both ends of the spectrum, but from different perspectives, which I think...
And I find it it's fascinating. I love the fact you keep using that word perception there, Al, because looking at the bits down the bottom there, that many leaders and managers are missing the old visual cues of what it means to be productive. And I struggle with this a little bit, because it seems instead of trying to think of new ways to measure that, they're actually saying, well, how can we watch people a bit more? How can we either bring people back to the office so we can see what they're doing and things, rather than looking at how, exactly as you're saying there, what is productive? What is the outputs we should be measuring? How can we look at measuring people more effectively there? It's a lot that I've seen from leaders. How can we bring people back so we can watch them and see that they are having meetings and doing things like that, which is really depressing.
Yeah, I was about to say that, is that you can kind of bring in a bit of presenteeism here of like, oh, I'm in the office, therefore I'm working, right? Whereas actually we know that when we're in the office, we're more distracted, more, inclined to just jump to different things, be less productive as well. Yeah, the numbers are interesting. 85% is a huge number. I think earlier on in the article, it talks about the increase in the number of meetings that are happening as well and being overlapped. And just, it seems like, again, if you're seeing people, then they're doing work. So you're in a meeting, you're being productive. Therefore, because I can see you being productive, and it's like, I think there may be a case of
that might be that you can see me being productive in that meeting doing emails. Is that what you mean? That kind of multitasking in meetings? Yeah.
It's an interesting one, and I think the word that you mentioned there and Kev picked up on it is perception, right? Is the perception of productivity. Yeah. Maybe our perception of productivity before was wrong, and the cues that we were looking for were wrong, and we're just going back to those old behaviors rather than thinking maybe we need to look into something different, which I think, Kev, that's probably what you were thinking, right? Have we not moved on from the old kind of visual cues that would indicate that kind of behavior? So very interesting.
I think a lot of organisations have moved on, but I think a lot of organisations are getting a bit jittery when they see lots of empty office space, or see a lot of space that they think is empty and not being used. Which is it's a very interesting dilemma for organisations when they're paying for that space, and it's almost wait a second, if everybody's remote, we can trust that everybody's doing the same thing, but now we have two different measures. One is the presentee, are they there, and then the other is, well, they're employed to be remote, therefore we know that they're doing something somewhere else. So there's some interesting dilemmas there for organisations, I think. There's some other facts.
Do you lose that office completely and lose that ability to be collaborative and come in together at certain times? And I think certainly conversations I've heard is, no, people still want that place, that central location to come back to.
And, that's one of the other stats that came out in this report, is about the why people go into the office. Employees say they need a good reason to go into the office. We had this at the Work Trend Index that came out earlier in the year, making the commute worthwhile. That's a key thing that, you can't really say, please travel for an hour to come into the office and just sit on Teams calls all day. That doesn't really justify that traveling.
That is the reality, though. Yeah. That is a lot of people's reality of what they've found, right? Is that they're doing exactly that. And it just is, that must be just soul destroying to have all that time where you could have maybe spent time with, your family, not commuting, to then commute to the office to do the same thing that you can do at home. And then that becomes the, talk about productivity. That's going to be people then thinking, don't want to really do this anymore, really.
And that's, I think, a lot of people have already made those different choices, that personal choice that we all have. Who do we work for? What is the balance that we're looking for? We've all made those choices. We've all adapted over the last couple of years to be expected to go back to whatever we were doing in the same way that we were doing it before, when we've proven that we don't have to necessarily work that way. I think that's the challenge, where, the last point in this is around organizations having to re-recruit their employees. This is a new way that we want to operate. We know that we will have the same outcomes and be profitable, but we have a bit more flexibility and more focus on the purpose. You're going to go into the office. You're going to have a meeting for this purpose. You're going to be carrying out this activity. there's a reason for it, and it contributes to the profitability of the organization.
Does that mean more meetings will get agendas?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have purpose. Do I turn up, or can I do this remotely? Yeah, definitely.
But it was interesting. I hadn't heard this notion of re-recruitment until there was the whole Viva event. I forgot what it was called now. Empowering your workforce, wasn't it? In something Times, but Satya Nadella was there in London, very exciting, very close to us all, speaking here, and he was there talking about this idea of re-recruitment, of kind of re-onboarding people, going through that steps where you engage people when they first start, doing that again. And I really like that idea. I think it is quite important, because you forget that stagnation. It's almost like renewing your vows, isn't it? From there, it's going through the things that you did before and saying those things that you believe and promise, and having that conversation again, and to be able to do that with groups of people at the same time, I think it's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, I think when you look at kind of defining the ways that we work and saying, okay, for the last 2.5 years, we've been very reactive. We've really had to respond to a situation that none of us were expecting. None of us really knew the way out, how long it was going to last. So we reacted in a way that meant that we carried on being employed, carried on being profitable for some organizations. We worked through that. But now, all of those knee-jerk reactions that, they always joke, COVID is a great transformer. It transformed a lot of businesses. It's now bedding that in, and it's going, actually, okay, well, what is the new normal? How do we manage our security? How do we manage our content? How do we use the tools that actually we're now using a lot, but maybe we don't have the maturity that we could have? So therefore, how do we actually work out our operating model as a team, as a department, as an organization, and reset, the whole expectation? And I think that re-recruitment is, as you say, it's a really interesting concept to go, all right, let's just start again and go, right, how are we going to work? Yeah, it's a big opportunity, I think, for a lot of organizations who have had to respond and weren't in a place where they were comfortable before the pandemic, and now they are, but they still need to work out, well, what does this mean for the longer term? So yeah, some really interesting conversation points in there, and obviously, that leads on very nicely into some of the technology that's, the whole concept of the work lab where this was published has driven the technology, and we've got Viva now, and this white paper that's been published in terms of all of the latest innovations covers not only how to use things, but also the new products that are coming out. There's a bunch of new capabilities that are coming out as part of the Viva Suite now. Sorry,
and I think it's interesting that they. I think I'm getting a bit of lag here. I'm feeling like Cat Greenan on Cloud Conversations today. What's interesting is Cat Beedham, I should say. What's interesting here is the way they kind of regrouped things. They've obviously started bringing in more and more Viva services as part of this that will come into a sec, but it's now they've realized there's too many, and they need to keep that fundamental simplicity of it. So I think we will hear more and more about connection. This isn't just Viva connections. This is how you connect people through things like Viva Engage, and Viva Amplify, which will come onto a sec. I think we've got Viva Insights, which is Viva Insights, plus you're going to have those additional things of Glint is obviously coming into the Viva platform, and also Viva Pulse, a new kind of team with a small t, focused area of getting that feedback and things for people, which will come through. You've got Purpose, which is going to be those OKRs, and then the Growth, which is about Viva learning and answers as well. I get slightly confused with these. I always lose where topics is, whether that comes under connection or growth on there as well. So I think there's certainly some learning to be done. And I love this notion of the fifth one of the role-based experiences, that obviously we've already heard Viva Sales, but as in this article, it talks about those roles of customer service, finance and more. I think yet more suggestions that we'll see even more of those come through under that Viva banner, which I think I'm intrigued about to see what they come through with the other role-based ones on there.
I think it's I think it's nice that they're grouping these in this way, because I do think, when we, rather than just talking about products, talking about capabilities means that we can apply them to a lot more different audiences. Everyone from frontline workers through to, leadership, through to office workers, information workers, call center workers. There's so many different audiences that consume these differently, that being able to just talk about capabilities and tailor those capabilities for those audiences makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So having said that, let's talk about some of the products. I think there's Viva Amplify, which is very interesting on there. This one, I heard a little bit about this before it was announced, and having that ability to send out those communications to lots of people in a kind of consistent way. For those who've seen Hootsuite in social media, that's a kind of example of this, but it's internal. So you can send to emails, send to Yammer, send to SharePoint pages, all sorts of different ones, but controlled, scheduled, with the approval, get consistent analytics. So I think for comms teams, this could be a massive win, really, really powerful for them.
I think this has always been something that comms teams have wanted, to be able to use all of those different channels to connect to people, regardless of where they are, the devices they use, to be able to channel them then to the same content. I think this will be pulling together capabilities from a lot of different products into a really nice tool.
Yeah, and I'm sure they won't be sad about emailing back and forth to get, can we send this? Can we send it now? Yeah, can we send it?
Yeah, I think it's got the flexibility of the different platforms as well. That's the thing, right? Is that people are going to be using all sorts of different things. It's not the case of there's all the different services that you could use. You don't have to use them all, but it's certainly, as you kind of get into the products, you might then start to say, actually, we might need some communities, and bring those in and expand your communication sites as well for your more brochure sites as well. And anyone that's done an intranet project, right, has always had this conversation with communications teams who in some cases intranet for various reasons, but it's not always that they want to. It just kind of sits with them. So this is it's a good solution.
That's good. Moving on, I'll try and go through these relatively quickly. Sorry, Al.
No, I was going to say leadership corner. It's I find this one really intriguing, to know how, as a manager, as a leader, how do I actually get help and support to actually become better at managing and leading?
Now that's intriguing to me. This is for leaders to share out to people what's going on, so you feel more engaged with the leadership team, rather than an area for leaders to get some information. But now you've said it, you've got me intrigued about that idea.
So I think leaders need to understand how to communicate, though, don't they?
I think they will need that to be able to do this effectively.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I always remember intranets. And I remember one client in particular, this is going back a long way, and they went, well, we've got all of these blogs, and the leaders write blogs, and some of them write them really well, and some of them don't write anything at all, or write them really badly. I think, to communicate in using this leadership corner, they need to have a clear understanding of what they're communicating, who they're communicating to, and how they're communicating. So I think there'll be a lot of learnings here for leaders to actually develop their own ability to lead as opposed to manage.
But I think it will still, I imagine it will still have that same ability of having other people to be able to post on behalf of someone, and things like that. And it'd be interesting, this will obviously overlap with stories and storylines where you can record videos. Obviously that is a lot harder to pretend to be someone else, although I know Bruce Willis has got the deep fake going on at the moment. So maybe
allegedly
thank you, good point. Although actually maybe that's the next market, is deep fake for leaders.
Can you imagine?
Let's not dig down into that too much, but it's interesting. Off the back of this, internally at CPS, I've started every couple of weeks doing a little recorded video and sharing that up on Yammer, trying to get into that habit of just doing 5 minutes. I've been using ClipChamp. Yes, I am a sucker for anything that's a Microsoft tool. or been bought by them. But it's very quick and easy. Just record a quick, here's the latest, here's the things we've been doing, here's what's in the pipeline, here's some interesting stuff in the kind of wider world that's going on, like these Viva bits, sharing that out and just giving it a place for people to hear what's going on, and hoping to encourage some others to start doing it too as well.
I've seen this been used really well with leaders inside Microsoft who have used this, who have gone, let's use this. Let's do like what you were saying, Kev, like 5-minute updates of just post on there. Here's what's coming. Yeah, and getting into a rhythm that you don't just have to write stuff anymore. Have something that's really consumable. 5 minutes, you get the updates from leadership. You understand, what's been moving, where the focus is, and I've found that really easy to pick up, and then even better, share that with other people, and they can then watch that as well. Or, we got mentioned on the 5-minute update. This is really great for our team and department within the wider organization. And for, I guess, Microsoft, it's a big company, right? That little soundbite is great recognition, because there's a lot of people, and this is a great way of leaders to be able to recognize that work where previously we would have done this in different ways, right? Maybe we'd have all got
only
together.
Hear at town halls, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And this is a good way that even if leaders commit to a weekly or bi-weekly kind of schedule of sending updates, then that's a great way of sharing praise. I mean, it's another way, right? We've had this like praise in Yammer as well, and other ways of doing it. But I think it comes back to your point, Al, about some leaders are better at doing this than others, and it then becomes a what type of leader you are. Do you want to be out there, presenting yourself, presenting your brand almost? It feels a bit social networky, right? Personal brand, leadership brand, within your organization. So the concept of the tooling is great. I really enjoy it. I've seen it used really well. Be interesting to see how this gets taken up more.
And how many people take it up, and what the other thing is the size of the audience as well. For a manager of a team or a department, it could work. It doesn't need to be to the whole organization. It's really about choosing the audience that you're targeting. As you say, a mention on something, where it's a senior person, that can be a very positive way to actually get feedback.
Yeah. And I think it helps people feel more connected. I know it's what it's called, but it is that you feel part of that team. And I know from speaking to a lot of different people, if they work in an area where they don't hear from senior managers, they don't feel part of that organization. It happens time and time again. Those that hear from them feel more aligned, which I think, no, it's not purpose yet. That's the next one. So I think the insight is then being able to help measure that. I'm intrigued about Pulse. So Pulse is that kind of team level, again, small t, sending out surveys. So I think the idea is if you've got a particular, if you've been through a stressful period, send out a few AI-driven questions that you can help pick the ones to see how people are actually feeling. For me personally, my team's stretches from the southwest all the way up to Scotland, so we don't get together ever to have everyone together in one place, sadly. But so to be able to go out and ask and see how people are feeling rather than just that chat and have that anonymous, I think that's a key to this. It's not going to identify any one individual. It will help aggregate it, say this is the feeling across there, and see that trends will be interesting. I'm slightly not confused, but intrigued to see how this will play out alongside Glint, because I think the aim is to still have Glint, still have that enterprise level kind of sentiment and pulse survey, and then have Viva Pulse as the team-based one. I kind of feel there may be a Teams and Yammer inner outer loop conversation to be had about this to help people understand why you'd use which when. I think there is a place for both, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out and how understood that is by everyone else as well.
I think I share your interest in terms of how is this going to play out with other tools that might already be in place. The value of capturing that subjective data is really important, but how you get people to respond to it, I think that's the other challenge that we get so many of these sorts of things. All right, it's another one of those. It's really kind of, again, it'll be something that needs to be used.
I've replied to my students
cautiously.
Pulse. Oh, it's another one. Oh, hang on. Which pulse is it? Yeah.
This pulse is about the previous one that you just filled in to say how was the experience.
Meta pulse. Yeah, I like it.
The struggle with surveys is real. Yeah.
It most definitely is, isn't it?
Survey fatigue. There you go.
Yeah.
We'll have that right now. I had 3 in the last few days, and it was just kind of like, just got to get them done, just get them out there. I think on this though, it brings us back to the other point, right? Kev, you were saying, your team is spread across the country. My team's spread across the globe. To see someone, I have to get on a plane to go meet someone. These tools are, dependent on how your team is made up. Then this could be the only way to really get that information across your team. Coming back to that modern way of working and being in different places, these are the tools that will, potentially help you move in that direction. And
I think it'd be interesting. I've been chatting a lot recently about the kind of trends you see, in consultancy. You've got that kind of summer gets a little bit quieter. You suddenly have this peak season. We got conference season now, same in that kind of May, April time on there. What I love about this is that it will ask the same questions and you can start to see that trend. So I quite like the idea of being able to say, actually, we've seen this trend on a regular basis. This isn't anything different. Or actually, no, this is worse. This isn't just a seasonal or base trend on other things. There's something else triggering this. So I think it'd be interesting to pick up the stats from that as well. Purpose. Good news is we don't have too much to talk about there. Lots of stuff with Viva Goals, which I love, been using more and more, and seeing some great stuff with that. I think they've reconfirmed that the integration of Power BI, Microsoft Project and Planner is going to be included there. Sadly, not any more details than that, but I'm pretty sure there are some going to be coming soon. If only there was a big conference just around the corner. That we might hear some more updates from, and I don't know we will before anyone gets excited, but let's put 2 and 2 together and guess there.
Speculation going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that South Coast Summit you're talking
South
about?
Coast Summit, yeah. No, Collab Days Bletchley. Lots of announcements later. And then we got growth, some intriguing-ish ones. Viva Learning with the LinkedIn Learning Hub integration. Yeah, it's very nice. Move quickly on unless anyone wants to add more interesting on that. I found that a slightly strange one because it didn't seem particularly different to what was there already, but it may grow on there. I think Answers in Viva was more intriguing. I mean, the name for it straight away makes me go, hang on, why is it Answers in Viva and not Viva Answers from there? But I think one of the reasons is it's going to be broader. It's there. It's not just the Yammer Answers with a rename. It's going to reach beyond that. I love this notion of having badges and things on there. It really does become a proper Stack Overflow on there, because I think the answers in Yammer have always been good, but you're not really encouraged to answer so much. There's not the benefits. There's not that kind of dopamine hit encouragement to get things, apart from marketers' best answer. I think with badges, with the analytics they're coming through, hopefully this will drive more of that and encourage more people to turn that I always get this wrong around, tacit knowledge into implicit knowledge. From there, actually write things down, I think would be good. So anything that helps get knowledge around an organization better, I think would be good.
And gamification, we wouldn't do anything without gamification, would we?
Absolutely not.
Do anything for a badge.
Yeah, absolutely. Badge and swag.
As long as it's got a sticker, eh, Gary?
Yeah, you can leave the stickers at home. Yeah, when you said Stack Overflow, I just thought, what, that means every good answer is going to be the second answer in the list, not the best answer. That's generally my experience on Stack Overflow, or a comment in an answer is generally the better answer. But there we go.
You are right. That cynicism's definitely coming through, Gary. But
yeah, must be feeling better.
I think we covered on role-based experiences that no new announcements. Viva sales. I try and remember, has that gone GA now? I don't think it quite has, but I think it's still in public preview, but everyone can use it on there. It's certainly available for anyone to try out, and again, under your correct change control process, etc. on there. And slightly strange in this book, which we will put in the show notes on there, having the Viva Connections digital home. So yeah, all that homepage you've invested in doesn't need it anymore. No, I'm being facetious on that one. They have confirmed that where you've set your intranet homepage, that can still be the landing page, and you can choose to toggle between the two. So where you've got your nice curated pretty intranet page will still be there. Then you've got the new Viva Connections home, which really brings together a lot of all the other different Viva elements. So I do think it's a good thing, and I think it simplifies. It's going to be fewer apps down the left. I think the perils of Teams and the number of apps that need to be pinned on the left, by making this the Viva one, and then you go into the other elements, will make life a bit easier for people as well.
I think the simplification, so that you've got more space for your custom apps down the side, will definitely make a difference.
Yeah,
so I think that's one of the things that I see most people don't really realize, that you can unpin the apps and pin different things and actually tailor it to what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was more briefing email goodness, so even more stuff coming into the briefing email on there as well. And I liked it. This was a kind of small one, but the reserve time in the week ahead, we've had that reserving focus time, but now there's different types, like reserve time to catch up on emails and reserve time to take a break. And now my colleague and your former colleague, Jack Binnell, when the pandemic first hit, kind of booked in time for us all to drop in and have a chat. And I've still got those meetings, even though he's left and come back. I've still got those kind of virtual lunches in there that try and block out a bit of time to go and do that. And it's useful. So I like the idea of having this, even if I was going to be rude and name sales, but I won't name sales. Come and book over them anyway.
That cynicism!
First article, right?
Cynicism is strong today.
Yeah.
And I almost missed the people in Viva was the other one. So it's not a Delve replacement. I'm not allowed to say that, but having that kind of organization view of people and bringing in those cards that we see consistently elsewhere, having a single place to see that with a lot of the Viva elements that you are licensed to will be nice. I think I like this. I think it's bringing more into the power of the card.
I think it's really interesting that the OKRs are going in there as well. If you've got Viva goals, that you can see what other people have as goals.
Yeah.
Because when you're working with people, very often you want to go, oh, if we work together, are we both going to benefit? Yeah. And that gives you a good insight into that, which you might not otherwise get, which I think could be a really good mechanism for actually building those relationships across the organization and going, actually, why don't we tag team on this particular exercise or project?
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, I was going to say that just showing up that information could be huge for an organization, for the work that you carry on and do, or not do. The things that it will, you see alignment with someone else, you think, oh, do I do this or do I do this, right? The right thing or the wrong thing. It's very easy to just go, oh, I'll just work on that one because it makes sense to me, right? And then you realize, if not everyone else is aligned, then maybe you think, is this worth my time, right?
Yeah.
And
but also, if you're trying to grab someone else's time, why isn't this not a priority for them? Oh, look, it's not a priority for them. It gives you that insight as well.
Yeah, it's the what's in it for me, right? On everything. And yeah, coming back to organizations and what we're measured on as well, right? You will work on the things that you're measured on first. Definitely.
At least you should do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not always a golden rule, right? But there are some things that will fall outside of that maybe, but generally, there's an alignment there for a reason, right? It's generally because you don't know where you are in the chain as well. So that organization chart will be really helpful, because then you'll be able to go, okay, well, what are the higher level goals that other people have got that are lower down, right? Because everything kind of splinters out, because it's alignment, not just above, it's above, your manager, their managers, all the way right to the top. So yeah, that having that visibility would be good.
Cool. And then there were also some Teams announcements that came out as well, weren't there?
What? It wasn't just about Viva. Outrageous.
I know you just want it all to be just about Viva, but
I thought
Teams is still there. So there were some announcements in for the August and September, and there's quite a few in here. And I know we've all kind of spotted various things in this that we like. I know we talked about the Teams optimized for Apple Silicon. The Cameo for PowerPoint Live. So an interesting way to actually make a presentation a little bit more engaging, which, let's face it, if we're all on Teams calls and Teams meetings and sharing content, anything we can do to make something a bit more engaging is valuable for us, isn't it? Yeah. So have you both tried this? Have you been using the Cameo?
I have used Cameo before. It was once, and it was in a demo of how to use Cameo. I'll admit that, but I like that it's there. I have never got round to actually putting it into a presentation and things. Actually, no, I tell a lie. There was twice I used it. I did build it into a recorded presentation I did, where it was the easiest way to kind of put my video there, and it kind of fit nicely into things. So I had my like intro face, I had me talking, and it kind of jumped to different bits on the screens depending on what was going on. So I like it's there. Do I use it day in, day out? No, I forget about it because I've got other things to do.
I think it's one of those things you have to plan the layout of the presentation and the slides to really make it work. Otherwise, it's just, you're going to lose a quarter of your screen if you haven't planned for it. So you do have to put some thought into it. I do find that I'm not doing that many online presentations, so therefore I haven't even, as you've done, demoed it, absolutely, but not actually used it in anger.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I think it can make a presentation truly pop, but yeah, we'll see. I think, to me, you two must know, Microsoft is driven by demand. They wouldn't have put this into PowerPoint Live unless people were using it or demanding it from the kind of main desktop app. So there must be people using it out there.
Mm. I do like the next one down, though. Collaborative annotations in Teams. The idea of being able to use Whiteboard to do the annotations on a document or a screen.
So how does it? If you've got a screen like that, and like we're sharing here, when you make the annotations and then scroll down a bit, are they all out of place?
No, I think they move with the screen.
Okay.
Have to experiment with it and see.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to try it, and I'm mixed on it because I just hate the idea that someone's going to bring loads of red ink. I'm quite glad we're not working together, Alex. I know you go through one of my documents and circle all the different bits and where I said to you or they and things like that. So
that kind of leads on to language interpretation, doesn't it?
Yes,
that's a great segue. So this one I know is quite exciting for a lot of organizations who are global, who have audiences worldwide, to be able to actually have live interpretation into different languages. I think is going to be massive for a lot of organizations. And from an accessibility perspective as well, if you think about just translating, into layman's languages and, distilling down the complexity of some of the language we use, as well as, just being able to explain things in slightly different ways. I think this is going to be a massively popular feature.
And just for people who maybe can't see the screen on there, what we're talking about, this isn't live translation in terms of AI translating what you're saying. This is putting in an interpreter, a real person to listen and put that text out. So it's providing the human interaction on top of what AI can do.
Yeah, basically you invite the interpreters in to the meeting. You select them as interpreters, say which language they're going to be translated into, and then people can choose which voice they're going to actually listen to, which sound.
Yeah, so nice. Was there any? I'm just trying to remember the other key ones to look over. Lots of together mode, which was nice.
So there's one in there.
Oh.
Yeah, signing channels is good. Leaving a meeting on all my devices as well. That's one that I always get caught out on.
So, hang on. Why do you join your meeting on so many different devices? Is that just so for the back chat or different camera angles?
Different camera angles and demos. So to be able to show different things, I always end up leaving it open somewhere and go, right, now where is it, my laptop or my phone? Or
then walk off and kind of swear, and then suddenly they can all hear you. And
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Always goes down well.
Yeah. But yes, if you, there we go. There's the leave on all items. Yeah, look, I think what I liked about this update, there's a lot of small updates coming through and of different areas, so it's good to put all those different items together. One I didn't see here that I think was another article was they got the new ringtone, haven't they? So a new ringtone for Teams that's a bit more upbeat, which I keep meaning to try.
I think I saw something on TikTok about that. But I don't know now whether I thought that was real or not, or whether that was someone just making it up. But now you mentioned it, I was like, no, I think they did actually change it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, very rarely have that kind of, oh, someone's just calling me outside of a meeting. So I never really noticed it. It's generally, oh, there's a meeting, you hear the pop-up noise, and that's the, oh yeah, I need to join a call now, rather than actually getting the ringtone. But
absolutely,
I guess some people do.
I'm trying to see if there was one more that caught my attention earlier, and I've lost now. Lots of nice new devices. I've heard some good things about the Brio 505. I think Tom Arbuthnot was talking about that and trying it out the other day. Really likes that. Not that I want to be spending more money on things. Intelligent chats. Oh, and some nice management ones as well, I think, were the key things. But so user request configuration to external systems, so you can have that URL redirect was good, and the dashboard customization. So for those using the Teams Admin Center, can kind of move around the dashboard as to what's important to them. And I know a few clients who've commented on that as well.
Don't go into the admin that much to use it in anger. Again, it's all demos, isn't it? So
absolutely. I'm trying to remember the next one. I think this was Gary, wasn't it? You were going to talk a bit about Teams apps.
Yeah, so this is a new announcement about Teams apps that you're able to, I guess, extend to other areas of Microsoft 365. So back in build in May, it was announced that you could take your Microsoft Teams app and you could extend it to Outlook and Office.com. So if you went into Outlook for the web or Office.com portal, you could just open up the same app. It would appear on the rail on the left-hand side, and you'd be able to open that up in those applications. This is kind of like the next step of that. So this is the mobile element. So if you use office.com, the mobile app, then you'll be able to go into the office.com app and then open up your business application that you've extended from Teams in that mobile application. So at the moment, it's just been released as a preview program. So you have to sign up, and you have to you can only use it on Android at the moment. iOS is coming, but you've got the ability to test this out at the moment. So if you're interested in doing that, if you've got apps that you want to have in different places, you don't want to build a mobile application fully, and you've already got something that you've got in Teams, reuse that code base and surface that in the mobile app. So yeah, definitely, if that's interesting to you, then check out the blog post, because there's all sorts of links on there about how to get started extending your apps to that as a developer.
And I think good to see there that there's ServiceNow and SurveyMonkey have already got those, so it's not just your apps. There will be ones you can bring into that from third parties as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's just another place in, well, I guess, Microsoft 365 that you can surface an app. So yeah, either you building for your organization, building custom apps, or ISVs like ServiceNow, and I think there's a few others that are mentioned in the article as well, lower down. They're already taking advantage of this and able to kind of present their apps in office.com, which at the moment office.com is kind of that place where you go and see your files and maybe your personal feed that whilst you're in there, I'll check my app as well that my business uses, or quickly
I'll send another survey
now.
just to Gary, just to wind him up.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's nice.
And there was the announcements from last week from the Power Platform conference. None of us made it over to that.
No, I know.
A lot of people did, though.
Yeah.
It looked like the whole of Twitter was over there, didn't it?
Yep.
But I thought there was the big one there that I thought was really interesting. Actually, we missed one article that was I can't remember who wrote this on there, about starting your journey to become a Microsoft 365 developer. Looks familiar, Gary.
Yeah, someone. How to become a Microsoft 365 developer. Yeah, an interesting one, right? Who would want to do that? Well, actually, there's a lot of people out there that are thinking, well, how do I build on Microsoft 365? You've got a Power Platform. That's one way of doing it. But actually, if you're a developer, you've got existing skills, maybe you're a .NET dev doing C# or JavaScript developer, then what opportunities have you got open to you? And Microsoft 365 is I've known for years, right? We've gone from SharePoint. Now we're looking at all the other services in Viva Connections. You've got Microsoft Graph that you can hook into and build applications on the platform. So if you're just starting out and you don't know what's in Microsoft 365, where do you start and what can you do? Then this article really just kind of goes through, where do you start? What content is available to you? So things like joining the Microsoft 365 developer program, right? It's not always clear that you can just get a free developer tenant that you can use and you can build whatever you like,
And with sample content on there, that is one of my favorite bits on that you're not having to spin stuff up. There's a whole load of things you can get going with it.
Yeah, it's not just, you've got a tenant and now you need to fill it with content. The sample packs there for exchange as well. There's sample users. I think you get 16.
Yeah.
All of them are licensed as well. It's E5 licensed, so you can test out a lot of the functionality on there. And it's a big place, Microsoft 365. It's quite unique in the sense that as a Microsoft 365 developer, you'll touch bits of Azure, you'll touch bits of Power Platform as well. So it can be really varied. But again, it's where do I start on all this? So there are lots of paths, learning paths that you can take, from fundamentals to the beginner paths to then, you know, more of the advanced development topics that are all on Microsoft Learn. There is modules, you take it at your own pace, learn all of that, play around in your developer tenant, and then, you know, the one thing of which we all know, which is brilliant being in Microsoft 365, is the community that comes with it as well. So like I mentioned before, the Microsoft 365 platform community was known as PMP, still is, but it's you know, that's kind of the new name, is you know, a really engaging community that will help you get started. So there's blogs,
agree.
and there's community calls that you can take advantage of, you know, learn from others, and you know, everyone on those calls want to share, you know, encourage you to get involved and share what you've learned and what you've built, and yeah, just get inspired really. So yeah, with all of that, hopefully it'd inspire you to at least go have a try and just build something and use those resources to maybe move into a new area.
Absolutely. I think that then brings us back to what the Power Platform Conference announced, which was the Power Up program, not the Power App program, as I keep saying without realizing. That's about getting support for getting into the Power Platform world as well. So I think you've got that nice route into Microsoft 365, you know, full pro code side. Are we allowed to say pro code still? I can never remember. But then also the Power Platform side of going that, as it says, you've got the guided curriculum. There's this certification vouchers on there, recognition, all sorts of stuff there. And I think the success stories we've heard from the Power Platform have just been incredible, of people being able to come from all sorts of walks of life to come in and teach themselves. This is great. And you know, we've seen others who've come through the Power Platform and move on to become pro code developers as well. So I love this. I think this is great to support people doing more with the Power Platform and Microsoft 365 as well.
It's very interesting that they're doing, you know, it is a 3-month program with an amount of work to do each week. It is quite intense actually, when they're saying exactly how much work it is and how long it is. There's a lot going into that, isn't there? I think this is it. You know, you said about the community, Gary. You know, certainly I probably wouldn't be where I am without actually having lent on the community very heavily to learn from, and in turn to, you know, give back to. So yeah, any ways that you can learn, you can do that. Use the community, Twitter, YouTube, all of those resources are out there, aren't they?
I think a great
definitely.
one. I was at Teams 10X last week and chatting to the moderator in between, and I kind of think I know a lot of people around the community, and so I didn't recognize her and heard her accent and was British. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Turns out she's a PA, just about to change jobs, but just loves the Microsoft stuff and wanted to get involved. And I was like, yes, that is the kind of people we love in the community. And this, I might actually ping this over to her. This, I think, would be perfect. It's that opportunity to take on different roles and things from this program and get that support.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've certainly found from, you know, the last few years as well, industries have been completely turned on, you know, on their heads. There's lots of people who have been in industries that would have considered to be really stable, you know, who would have thought all the airlines would have not flown for so long, right? That would have been unthinkable. People leaving that industry and then reskilling and looking at different industries. Technology is a great example of where you can come with, you know, little experience, right, and learn it. You know, you can learn, you can get out there, and you can get involved with the community. Is a great way of kind of, you know, advancing your journey into that industry. So I think anything to do with learning. And obviously Microsoft, we have Microsoft Learn. We have these amazing programs that are put out there. Is, you know, it's down to you as an individual. It's all out there. Just gotta go with it, consume it, have a go.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yep, be curious.
And there are a few other things announced at the Power Platform conference, I think, as well, Al, weren't there?
There were a few other things. So cards for Power Apps. So I think we've all enjoyed adaptive cards in Teams, haven't we? And cards being built on adaptive cards for Power Apps. It does look very much like they're just extending that model of having a relatively easy kind of layout language to actually make rich interactions, but to embed them directly into Power Apps now, which will be quite an interesting feed when you kind of think about, you know, having galleries of things and actually pushing notifications and having a bit more interactive elements in there, and using potentially exactly the same layout that you might be using elsewhere. That could be quite an interesting change for that. I think the adaptive cards, they were always promised as being, I can publish them to bots, I can publish them to Teams channels, you know. So seeing them popping up elsewhere, I think, you know, lends to the strength of them if you can actually distribute them to lots of locations.
And I hope they're keeping the consistency, because I know for a little while there was different versions of the adaptive cards supported in different places and slightly different things. I hope that consistency comes into this as well.
Yeah, I think that also helps just from a consumption perspective as a user, you know, not having lots of different looks and feels to deal with, and having it consistent with whatever platform it's being pushed into. I think that also helps a lot. There were enhancements for the co-authoring. I think that's been a bugbear that I think we've talked about several times in the past. But, you know, being able to actually simultaneously edit applications, certainly for the Power Apps pieces, you know, that's always been, if you're going to build something at scale and it's going to be business critical, you can't just have one person working on it. You need to be able to have multiple people. So having,
it's interesting, the wording there, a feature enabling makers and developers to now design and develop. It's interesting commentary around that. Also suggesting that maybe you've got the UI people and you've got the people doing the more coded stuff within there, kind of collaborating together. I know Louise has talked a lot about Fusion Dev. I find it very interesting they've explicitly called out those two different roles on there.
Which is interesting when you kind of think there's no separation of layers as such. You know, you're looking at sort of the formulas in situ within the UI, as opposed to having that separation of layers to say, well, actually, you know, the dev's going on here, the UI presentation layer is going on here. So yeah, interesting to see that wording there, isn't it?
Could that be a bit of a, because I thought co-authoring required a Git repository, and then maybe that kind of comes into it, unless there's a different type of co-authoring that's going on. I'm not 100% sure, but I know before the co-authoring would go through Git. So as one developer made they saved their changes, it would push that to the Git repository, which then notified the developers or makers to refresh the changes. So I'm assuming that's probably why, because I suspect you would need a dev for the Git side of things.
What we need is one of us who was at the Power Platform conference who could be on the next show and might be able to answer that.
Yeah,
I hope we can pin down Louise at the South Coast Summit and ask that question. I think the chances of us remembering that are pretty low, but
well, you never know.
Yeah,
We'll wait and see.
absolutely. But I think a couple of nice ones there for those who like SAP. That one person will be very excited about that.
I was going to say, for who?
Well, to be fair, if you had to put up with SAP, at least now you can do things in Power Apps and move as much away from that as possible. So I guess people will be encouraged from that side.
And I guess if you've got more of the sort of, it does say that there's 25 Microsoft Power Apps specifically designed to expedite SAP business processes. So I guess, if you can easily layer on top of the SAP interface and the SAP process is something that people actually like using, that might be good.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think nice to see a big conference around the Power Platform and for them to have some announcements come off the back of that. I'm very much a fan of conferences having announcements where they can, especially the big ones like that.
And whether it is, just focusing on the Power Platform, you'd hope that would be the right audience who are there to actually really sort of make the most of it.
Yeah,
I mean, because we didn't have MBAS this year, did we? Biz apps.
No, that's true. Actually, I hadn't thought about that. I'm trying to think when that was. That
used to be around spring, didn't it?
U2 springtime, wasn't it? Yeah. Interesting. There wasn't a virtual one, was there? I know they didn't have the hacker. I think, I can't work out what that could have been 2020, 21, 2022. They didn't have it. I'm not sure, but yeah, now you've mentioned that. Anyway, I can hear Al's stomach rumbling. Did we want to talk about some of the events coming up?
Well, there aren't that many coming up, are there? Oh no, wait.
We're into that season.
we are definitely into that season. So what have we got? Collab days in a couple of days from when we're recording. So you're both at that, aren't you?
Yeah, I was about to say tomorrow. No, traveling tomorrow, but yes, on the 5th.
So on the 5th, you're both there. Technorama Netherlands.
Yeah, I think
any of us there. Louise is there.
Louise is over in Techorama in Netherlands. I know she's talked about how good that event was last time, so looking forward to hearing from that one.
I think she's in Belgium as well for Collab Days Belgium, which is a good event. Been there a couple of times over the years. So that's on the 15th of October. And then we're into a very busy week. Ignite, 12th to the 14th. If you haven't register for that. Lots of announcements to come, lots of sessions.
Are there any good speakers there, Al?
I wouldn't know. Yeah, I do have a few sessions that I'm presenting there.
I know we were chatting the other day. I forgot to ask, is this your first Ignite speaking session?
It is, yes.
That's quite exciting. That's quite a big moment, really.
It is. And, I learnt about the MTC from the last in-person Ignite, so I'm kind of doing a full circle. So it's quite nice to be speaking at it this year.
No, I think it's very cool. And you're getting to fly over to Seattle for that one, are you? Or?
No, I'm going to be holed up in a hotel down in Southampton for that one. Yeah. So, which is quite appropriate for one of the sessions because it's around frontline workers and devices. So it's quite appropriate to be in a hotel room. Should be an interesting session because another colleague's in another hotel room at another conference in the US. So that will be quite an amusing session for us. But there is also the in-person elements for Ignite this year as well. So in the UK, it's up in Manchester. And there's a watch party down at the South Coast Summit as well on the Thursday.
Yeah, I'll be down there for that.
And then we've got South Coast Summit, 14th and 15th, the Friday and the Saturday. So I think we're all down there, aren't we? And Louise will be there as well. It's going to be a momentous occasion for us all.
I think at very least there'll be a load of selfies coming out, and I think we're hoping to record something, aren't we? But
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. And then after that, we've got Code Motion, 18th, 19th of October.
If Louise is still standing by then.
Should be taking a couple of weeks off after that by the time that's done. So. And then in November, we've got the Viva Explorers Community Day.
So I'm really excited about this event because I know Leslie Crooks and Chirag have been working very hard, and Sarah Fenner's been helping out on this. It is part of the kind of new Microsoft community that's supporting these community events happening, that has made this happen. So a whole day talking about Viva. So whether you're technical, whether you're coming from a comms aspect, an HR aspect, we want to get as many people along with that as possible. A free day up in Manchester. Lots of good speakers from across different areas, including myself. I currently have 3 different sessions lined up, and I'm hoping to maybe trim that down a bit, but otherwise it could be a busy day. And I think we've got a good wrap-up speaker. Is that right, Al?
Yes, I will be wrapping up the day. So yeah, it should be really interesting to have a full day around Viva, and to really kind of get under the hood, as you say, for all of those different audiences to really understand a bit more about what it can do.
Absolutely.
And then European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure conference. Is that the final conference to have SharePoint still in its name?
Do you know, it might be actually.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the ESPC acronym. They can't take that away. So I think that's a problem. Yeah.
If you say ESPC, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
You say European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure conference, it's like, what's that?
But I'm very excited about ESPC. I know myself, Chirag, and Zoe Wilson going to be running a workshop there on Viva as well. So a whole day workshop. I've been to, was it 2, 3 others previously, ESPC, and always looked up and admired people there. So to be able to stand on stage for that and to be able to give a whole workshop, we've got a room full of people, which is terrifying me the more I think about it, but I'm very excited. I know Jeff Teeper's going to be there, Vessers.
In your workshop?
I hope so, yes. I've heard he needs to learn a bit about Viva. So we're going to teach him a little bit more about how to actually get hands-on and do it properly as well. But there's a lot of big names and me who are going to be there speaking. So really, I love the ESPC. They know how to put on an event, which is fantastic. And it's during the World Cup. So I think there'll be some football watching going on as well.
Oh, well, there you go. Perfect combination then.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, busy month or so, isn't it? So we'll be back, next week? I'm just trying to work out what week we are down in South Coast.
We hope, yes, next week, we hope we'll be able to get a recording of some kind or other going on there. As long as we can line people, we'll certainly do some recordings of some kind while we're there and put bits out. So there'll be various stuff coming from there.
Should be good. Should be good.
And then I'm trying to remember who we've got lined up next. For a couple of weeks' time, we do have a guest, and my bookings isn't working. And then we should have 31st of October, Emily Mancini's definitely coming to join us as well. So that will be good as well. So a few guests lined up. We haven't said this at the beginning. We should have had a guest tonight. Unfortunately, they were a bit worried their daughter was going to be ill. And then actually their daughter recovered and they got ill. So we will have them back at some point to come speak as well.
Excellent. And so I guess with that, we'll bring tonight to a close and prepare ourselves for the onslaught of Ignite and South Coast Summit. Oh, and you've got collab days in a couple of days as well.
It's not.
Bring it on.
Bring it on, indeed.
Bring it on.
Lovely. Thank you very much then.
Thank you very much. See you all soon.
Bye-bye.